Hey booktube, science fiction reads here with another book haul. Now I've been saying I'm not buying books lately, and that's still true, but I did manage to get 10 books at a thrift store for $10. So it's like the only thrift store around that has incredibly cheap prices and usually has science fiction. So that's how I justify it. I was in the city and I had to stop it. So, and it's just quite a wide range of different type stuff too. So first up, I have a E.E. Doc Smith Subspace Explorers. I don't know if this is one of his better known ones. I've been looking for it for a long time, specifically because I like the cover art. At one point, my eBay profile picture was like a cropped version of this, I don't know, female astronaut maybe. I always have retro cover art as my picture, but I don't know much about this one. It's just some sort of space opera. I think it's kind of like a projection of Cold War stuff into the future, plus some psi powers and whatnot, but it's actually got quite a damaged back cover, but the front is nice, and I have since put it in a bag. But yeah, I just love that cover art. Next up, Ian Watson's The Book of the Stars, which is the second in a trilogy. I knew nothing about this until I bought this, and just recently did a little research. I know it involves a character from the first book, and in this one she dies and is resurrected as a cherub on Earth by some sort of god. Some sort of god resurrects her with the intent of having her spy on some sort of AI, I think. It sounds wild. I absolutely want to find the first and third of these and check them out because they sound pretty nuts. And again, great cover. This is a Granada from, looks like 86. So yeah, don't know much about that trilogy, but it sounds really wild. Then I got a collection edited by Anthony Boucher. It's the best from fantasy and science fiction, 8th series. I think this was from 1959. Yeah, it looks like from 59. It's got stories from C.S. Lewis, Poul Anderson, Asimov, Fritz Leiber. Tons and tons of notable people. I might have one of these already. I can't actually see from here, but it's just a book club edition, but for its age, it's in nice shape. A random here, a collection of short stories by Howard Fast, A Touch of Infinity. I don't know anything about Howard Fast other than he was a novelist and wrote for TV. I don't know if he was well known for science fiction and fantasy, but this was an ex-library hardcover. I don't know, it could be interesting. If you know anything about Howard Fast or this collection, leave a comment. I got part 1 and 2 of a trilogy by Stephen Baxter, something a little different. It's Mammoth. Is this number 1? I think so, yeah. Mammoth and Long Tusk. I hate that these are giant trade paperbacks, but for $1 each, I picked them up. I think the first one involves mammoths surviving on some isolated island into modern day and then coming into contact with humans. I think the second takes place in the far past, thousands of years in the past. And I think the third takes place on Mars and involves a mammoth that had been transported there or maybe genetically engineered to exist on Mars. So they're all, I guess it sounds like they could be read as standalones. And I'm really intrigued by this, so I'm going to do a little more research. If they can be read as standalones, I might dive into those. Because I've certainly not read something like that by Baxter. A random here from David Wingrove, The Stone Within. This is part of his Chinese-themed, well, kind of a Chinese future space opera. I have the first 2, and I think this is book 5. It seems well regarded. These books are not too hard to find. I passed them up for years, and now when I see them, I grab them. I intend to check that out sometime. Atlantis by Jane Gaskell. I think this is a fantasy. I think it's the number 2 in some long-running series of hers. Involves Atlantis, and I think takes place in South Africa as well. I know it takes place 7,000 years BC and has ties to Atlantis and stuff. An awesome cover. This is a sphere copy. And so, it looks like somebody wrote Pavane Panther on the back. Maybe they were wanting to track down a copy of Pavane published by Panther. That's random. Mostly just bought it for the cover art, but need to look into that a little more. An old classic. I think this is from, what, 1884, Flatland? I've wanted to read this forever. This is like a modern copy. I know it's like a thought experiment kind of thing. Takes place in a one-dimensional world called Lineland, I think. And the main character is a square. So if you haven't heard of that one, it sounds wild, and it's a bit of a classic. Mary Doria Russell's Children of God. This is the sequel to The Sparrow, which I've wanted to read forever. I just can't find it. Haven't found it yet. And this involves, I think, the only survivor from the first book going back to the solar system that the first book took place in. Has lots of religious themes, and it's always intrigued me, but I need the first one. Second last book here, but the last one from this thrift store. This is a really neat find. This is a Canadian magazine. This issue is from 1994. It's called On Spec. This is a Canadian SF magazine that started in '89 and is still going today. This is the first time I've ever come across a copy. It's got an ad on the back from Prisoners of Gravity, which was a truly Canadian TV show in the 90s. But this one's neat because it is focusing on hard SF. So if we look inside, the only authors I recognize are Corey Doctorow. I recognize the name. I haven't read anything by him. And of course, Carl Schroeder, who's written some amazing hard SF and space opera. And another theme of this was, a theme for this edition, or issue I should say, was computer art. So each story, including the cover art, is all made with computer graphics. It actually says on the front here, the cover was made by Jim Beveridge using Windows Paintbrush and an IBM compatible PC. So I love that. It's so a product of his time, but very, very cool. So there's a story there, and some computer cover art drawn on a Macintosh Quadro 700 in Adobe Illustrator, then digitally airbrushed in Adobe Photoshop. So it's like a little time capsule for early computer animation. I don't know, very cool. I'll at least check out the Carl Schroeder short story, but really neat to finally find one of these. I remember looking these up a couple of years ago online. So that was the end of my thrift store book haul. I'm still not spending much money on books, mostly because we are expecting our first baby in June. So that's exciting, and also a good reason to stop blowing all my extra cash on books. But I do have one more book here. This just arrived in the mail today, totally unexpected. The Starmen by Lee Brackett. This is from Wildside Press. And I was not expecting to get this. This was a bit of a head scratcher for a second, until I realized it's on my Amazon wish list, and I don't imagine he'd mind me mentioning. I hope he doesn't mind. This was sent to me from John at Sci-Fi Scavenger, who has an excellent channel. I hope you don't mind me mentioning that, John. But I'm super thankful for this. I'm going to read it probably before the end of the year. I've wanted to read this one for a long time. It's very space opera-ish by the sound of it. It follows the adventures of Matt Karst, a hard-drinking adventurer and thief, and Princess Alidor, the daughter of a deposed ruler of a distant planet. And it goes on a little more. It just sounds like it's going to be some epic early space opera from the queen of space opera. So thank you again, John. Very exciting. I might even start reading this tonight instead of continuing with what I'm currently reading, which is Greg Bear's Hegira, which is interesting, but if it's not his first novel, it's certainly an early one, and it suffers from that. But it's still interesting. I'm enjoying it. It's just different and kind of confusing at times. So yeah, a bit of an unexpected book haul, but a good one. Lots of total variety here. All sorts of different stuff. So yeah, as always, thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next one.